Hey everyone, welcome back to Branded. Today I want to talk about something that hits a little close to home and quite honestly happens to almost every single business owner that I come into contact with. When you become not only the brand, but you also become the bottleneck. So, what do I mean by this? Basically, it's this moment when you realize that the very things that helped you build your business, such as, the standards that you have, the creativity, the ability to like literally do all the jobs, right? Every single job. But now those same strengths that helped you build your business are almost kind of quietly bottlenecking your business. This is something that happens. And listen, this is not like an episode about, throwing some shame or like anything like that around. This is a clarity episode. This is an episode for you to give yourself permission to finally like hold the mirror to yourself and really ask yourself, like, where am I getting stuck in my business? Because, you're the face of your brand, and that is really, really beautiful. But if you are the one and only engine to your brand, somewhere along the way, you'll end up finding that you're actually the bottleneck. You're the reason that it's staying stuck. And this isn't like an, oh my God, throw your hands up, freak out kind of thing. It's more about being present enough to notice that this is happening. And that's exactly why I wanted to do this episode, because the tricky part about this is like nobody tells you these things. Nobody's really telling you that, like, hey, by the way, those same qualities where you're like hustling and doing absolutely every fucking job in your business, those things are going to end up slowing you down in the long run. Nobody tells you those things in the beginning. And so you like dive right in with, this gusto of like, well, I'm going to just do every single task and every single role in this business because that's what makes me worthy of having this business, right? That's what a business owner does, stretches themselves so thin that they become the bottleneck. Nah. The unfortunate part is that sometimes we don't realize this either until we're sort of told, so our awareness is brought to it, or we're stuck in this like spinning spiral, this cycle of like feeling stuck yet being really fucking busy, and we don't know why. This could be why, right? The same qualities that make you incredibly magnetic can also start to quietly hold you back when you're trying to hit your next level. It's the balance of life, right? So, yes, you care deeply, but maybe now you have this feeling like nobody can do it as good as you because you care so deeply. Yes, you love your craft, but is that perfectionism of nobody can do it as good as me actually slowing you down and creating less momentum? Now, this doesn't make you wrong thinking that you can do it all, right? I think I can do it all. And oftentimes I do it all. But every now and then I find myself coming to the point where my business is reaching this next level. And I'm like, why am I feeling so stuck? It's because of me. It's because I'm not allowing my brand and my systems to evolve in the way that they really need to. You really can't just stay stuck in this one vein because your business is constantly branching off into all of these different areas. And if you want to capitalize and monetize on any of those areas, you're going to have to make some pivots and you're going to have to make some adjustments. And if you're sitting here going, I'm never going to do that, guess what? You're the bottleneck. You're going to slow things down. So this isn't about like, okay, you're too much of a perfectionist or you think you can do it all. This is just you being human and thinking, okay, well, I'm a business owner and I want to do it all. I know what the vision is, so I'm going to do it. I'm not going to trust anybody else with it. And in the beginning, that's okay because you're still sort of like figuring things out as well. But if you're trying to scale at any rate, you have to allow other people to help you get there. Because for one, you may not have like the zone of genius to really get the task done. So what could take someone 30 minutes is maybe taking you 5 hours. Maybe you don't have like the drive to actually sit and focus on something like that. Like You don't love writing. You're more of a creative. You don't love doing the more like the copywriting side of your business. So inevitably, you will become the bottleneck if you don't really think about where can I maximize my potential and where can somebody else's potential be sort of woven in to really amplify my business. So this happens with every business owner at some point or another because, you're building that first chapter of your brand out of like pure grit and just instinct, tenacity. But once you cross a certain threshold in your business, you really can't keep running on like that founding energy, that really starting energy that you have. You can't run your business 10 years later from that same energy. It has to be adjusted. And inevitably, your business needs structure. As it grows, it needs even more structure. And that's the thing, the bigger the house, the bigger the foundation, right? So, this is how these things work: more support, more clarity, more delegation. These things happen as your business grows. But before we start trying to fix anything, right? Maybe we need to see where the actual bottleneck is happening first. So let's start there. So let's talk about how being the bottleneck sort of sneaks its way into your brand. Because we don't wake up on a Tuesday and we're like, today I'm going to be the bottleneck of my own business and I'm not going to do shit. I'm going to do things the same exact way and I'm going to be frustrated about it the whole time. We don't go into the day with that intention, right? That's silly. So the bottlenecking, it sort of quietly sneaks its way into your brand. And there's a couple ways that this happens. So these might be some red flags for you to be like, have I been doing this lately? The first way that this may show up is over control of your message. And what I mean by this is you want absolutely everything to sound like you, which is a good thing, right? You want your brand to be cohesive. But the problem with this is you end up maybe rewriting one post like 5 different times. That's over control, right? Follow a little bit of instinct, because with that over control, it just means it's going to create inconsistency with how frequently you actually can show up and provide things to people. Because if you're rewriting one piece of content 5 times over, you could be making 5 pieces of content, right? So if you're doing this with every piece of post, every email that you're writing, every little reel that you're putting out, like, this is you bottlenecking your business. This is over control of the message. Trust the message, have the message, keep it consistent, but don't over control and like fixate on making it this like perfect thing. There is no perfect. Get it out there. Get the message out there. Keep it as consistent as you can with your brand and your brand voice, and just fucking click submit, schedule, post, whatever, right? So over control of the message, this is a way bottlenecking will show up in your business. Another way, inconsistent visibility, meaning you either show up everywhere, right? On Wednesday, you're posting on 12 different platforms, but on Thursday through the next Wednesday, so a whole week later, you haven't posted anything, right? So either you show up everywhere or you show up nowhere. That's inconsistency in your visibility. Choose the platforms that you like to consume information on, utilize them. Choose the platforms where you know your client base is hanging out. Utilize those. You do not have to be everywhere all at once. This will depend on what kind of energy you have, right, that week. And when you show up everywhere and then all of a sudden you're nowhere, this creates a sense that your business is unstable, even if it's not, right? Even if nothing online is anywhere close to how your business is actually running, that's how it will look. And if you're trying to utilize websites or an online platform in order to advertise and sell your services and your products, you need to create consistency. There has to be that level of consistency, which then creates the trust. So you'll be bottlenecking your own business if you decide that you're going to be on a hot string called social media this week, and next week you're not going to show up at all. Don't do that. My suggestion for you is decide how many days a week you think you can show up on just the platforms you like to be on or where you know your clients are hanging out, and stick to that. Give yourself like 90 days to promise yourself, okay, I'm going to show up Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, right? Like it does not have to be 7 days a week, it doesn't have to be 5 days a week. I show up on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays on social media. And Thursday through Sunday, I'm completing client projects. I'm doing stuff for my own business. I'm creating things. I'm having off time. I told myself I couldn't do more than that, and I have stuck with that. It's been almost a full year, I think, now that I've just been posting 3 days a week, and it feels great. I don't need anybody's permission to do that. You can decide for yourself, what does that consistent visibility look like for you? Because the inconsistent, that's bottlenecking your business. Another way that bottlenecking will show up is perfectionism. So I think we should start saying like perfectionism equals paralysis, because it really does. A sense of perfectionism and wanting to just have something absolutely perfect before you share it, it's never going to get shared. I mean, come on, right? Like, how many times do you sit there and maybe you've got like 10 ideas and only one of them you feel like you're like kind of sort of ready to share? But instead of actually sharing it, you just let it sit in your Google Docs or like your notes app. And every now and then, once a month or something, you see it and you're like, oh gosh, that's so good. I really need to do that. Then do it. Because if you're not, you're bottlenecking your business. You're not letting the creative energy flow. Not everything is going to be, totally 100% received by your audience. For one, maybe they're just not online that day, right? Maybe the algorithm is not pushing your stuff like it was. There's all sorts of factors that, yes, you can be mindful of them, but do not let them stop you. So don't let the perfectionism of things create this paralysis whenever you're trying to share and create for yourself and for the people that you serve, right? This is a way you will bottleneck your business. Too much perfectionism. Another way you'll see this show up is when you're still doing certain tasks in your business that you maybe outgrew years ago. Examples: onboarding a client manually. Do you not have a system in place that can create a little bit of automation in that onboarding process? Maybe it's a calendar booking that starts the onboarding and they get a series of emails after they book that appointment that give them information, that get them ready for that onboarding call, right? Maybe after the onboarding call happens, there's this another series of emails or some sort of communication. There's maybe a portal that they go to that, okay, now they have access to this course portal and they can create all these new things and see all this new information. Why are these things not in place, right? You have the desire for them. This is creating a bottleneck in your business if you're not growing with your clients and their needs. So something like a client onboarding system can be bottlenecking your business if you're doing it the same way today as you were 2 years ago and you have more clients and a bigger business. Why is it the same? Updating your website. These are things that this will bottleneck your business because maybe that stuff is so old. That information is so outdated. It's products you don't even offer anymore. It's services that you could care less to be part of. Like, why is that information on your site if you don't want to be serving people in that way? This is bottlenecking your business, right? Scheduling all of your stuff manually. There are so many tools out there when it comes to scheduling social media assets. Now, I do scheduling manually, but I do it at like 2-week intervals. So I always have this buffer time to create. I've tried to use scheduling tools and go out further than that, like 30, 45 days at a time. And the way I produce content, I just don't like doing it that way. But utilize the built-in features of social media. Get yourself a week ahead. Get yourself a day ahead, right? While you're sitting on the couch tonight, you could be thinking about what kind of content you want to provide tomorrow or on Monday, right? Give yourself the weekend as a break or something. And if you hadn't guessed, I'm recording this on a Friday since I just said that. But that's how this sort of bottlenecking starts to show up in your business. And that's why it's so quiet, is because these are things that we do all the time and they don't feel big. They don't feel major when it's happening, when we're doing these little sort of like micro sabotage moments to our business, but it's like, sand through the funnel. At some point, it fills up, right? You bottleneck your business by all these little things that you're adding that don't need to be there anymore, or they could be done faster, or they could be done more efficiently, or maybe they're not done at all. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But the last way you'll see bottlenecking sort of sneaking into your business is not trusting anyone else with the work that you do. And what I mean by this is you don't accept any control, or I'm sorry, you don't accept any help. All you want to do is fully control everything. This will exhaust you faster than anything else in your business. Trying to do every single piece of your business will burn you out, especially if they're pieces of your business that A, you don't understand quite as well, or B, you just don't like doing. So these are ways that bottlenecking will show up in your brand really, really like quietly and sneakily. So now that you've kind of seen these red flags, these sort of like, oh, maybe I'm doing just a couple of these. Maybe you're not doing them all. Maybe you're doing none. Good for you, right? Awareness is key. But if you're doing some of these, this is the part I really want you to like really hear. You're not the bottleneck because you're doing something wrong. You're the bottleneck because your business has evolved and the structure didn't. Period. Your brand is not asking you to push harder. You don't need to be more. It's asking you to just lead a little differently so that some ease can follow. So instead of moving from, well, I'll just do it myself, move to the sort of side of the page where it's like, well, what's the best use of my energy, right? Because when you're the brand, but you're also the bottleneck, it's not about you doing less of the work. It's about you doing the right kind of work that gets you the right kind of results and keeps you in the right kind of frame of mind to keep building and creating. So here's my big question for you. What do you keep? What do you automate? And what do you delegate or outsource, right? However you want to say it. This is the part of the episode where if I was you, I would press pause, go grab a pen and paper, and I would like do this while you're thinking about it. Obviously, if you're driving, don't do that. Come back to it. So this is what I would do. And when I'm feeling really stuck, this is a great practice for me. And this is a great practice if you're at the point in your business where you're not quite sure if you're ready to outsource things yet. This is really good clarity. So grab a piece of paper and a pen, put 3 columns down the paper, right? Column 1 is going to be your keep column. Your keep column, the middle column is going to be your automate column, and your other column is going to be outsource or delegate, whatever you want to call it. So we have keep, automate, and outsource. The keep column, you're going to write everything under that column that needs your voice. So this would be something like podcast hosting. I can't outsource my podcast hosting to somebody else because they don't have my voice, right? So that's something I would have to keep on my plate. Something else would be like really high level strategy for the business. So if there's really like talks about you want to spend some money on some new platform, you want to have an overhaul of your brand, right? These high level decisions, those need your voice. Those are in the keep column. Creative direction of your brand. Keep that to yourself, right? You can have other people with you, but keep that as something that you really have a voice in. Any of the client-facing decisions, if you have a new offer that you're wanting to roll out and you want to have a series of emails, you want to have certain course access, you want to have templates that they get, whatever the deliverables are, right? What are those client-facing decisions? You should be a part of those. Keep that in the keep column for yourself. Because the question is, for that keep column, what you're really asking, what requires my brain, my voice, and my presence. Those are the things you're going to want to have in that keep column. The middle column for automate, these are things that systems can handle. And a lot of stuff can go here. These are things like onboarding. I gave you an example earlier with like the calendars and the workflow triggers and emails and things like that. Offboarding, same deal. You can have a whole workflow that gets triggered off whenever someone reaches like a 6-month period in your program. And then there's a little boop, little trigger, and they get an email and it's offboarding them and it's giving them a survey to see how they enjoyed their experience. All of those things can be automated. Payment reminders, right? Sending invoices and then having payment reminders. So if you set, let's say a 14-day net terms on your invoice, you can set automations that say, okay, after 14 days, if this invoice hasn't been paid, let's send them it again, right? You need to be getting paid for your work. And if you don't have time to look back and see what kind of invoices might be outstanding, this is a perfect thing to automate. Scheduling, calendars, all of those things, like automate that, automate it. Form submissions, oh, this is so good because you can get so much information. So whether it's a form on your website, maybe it's something that you're taking a poll on, you're going to have a new offer and you have it inside of Instagram or something, like whatever. But those form submissions, you can create automation so you can get the information as soon as someone submits, and then maybe they get a little bit of information after they submit that keeps them engaged, that nurtures them a little further, that offers them a product, right? Like all sorts of ways you can automate these steps. Follow-up emails, 100%. Every time I build out an offer for somebody, I am putting together no less than like 5 emails for that one offer, because after someone purchases something, the last thing they want to do is feel ghosted. I mean, it doesn't even matter the dollar amount. If you're spending $5 on something, you better expect that I'm expecting either a receipt or I'm being told, here's my deliverable. You have to have these sorts of things. And if you're doing them all manually, you're 100% bottlenecking your business. These are things to automate. So the question you want to ask for the automate column is, what am I doing manually that software could probably do better? That's your question. And then your last column, your delegate or your outsource column, think of this as everything you're going to put here is, if someone can do it 90% as well as I can, I'm going to put it in this column. Now, that doesn't mean that you're 100% going to give it away, but at least this helps you sort of segment your workload and really get your eyes on, like, how much am I doing that doesn't really need my voice, my presence, or my brain? How much time am I spending in my day to do those things? And this is just it's a great hold up the mirror and really get a true look at where your business is a little bit sticky. So examples of this would be social media scheduling. You could write the post and you can have a system in place where you pay somebody else to come behind you and do all the scheduling. Because as someone who does my own scheduling, I've yet to outsource this, but that is probably the next thing I would outsource. As someone who does my own, it's very time consuming. Like, you create the content yourself, but then you still have to go back behind and you have to put it into each of the platforms. So that's why having scheduling tools is really useful, especially if you have like one place where you can create one post and it can go to multiple destinations. That's a win. But even if you're just using the scheduling tools within the platforms themselves, it can be time consuming. So could someone do at least 90% as well as I am scheduling my post? Absolutely. That's why it's the next thing on my list that I'm probably going to hire out. I just haven't yet. But this is on that column for me, social media scheduling. Something else on this column could be editing your emails, editing your post, anything like that. Doing a little bit of copywriting. Like, if you're not great at that kind of stuff and you don't love it, that is absolutely a delegate task. Doing design updates to your social media channels, to your website, anywhere that your brand is showing up. Doing design updates, if it's not in your zone of genius, I would make it a delegate task, because That type of work can feel really frustrating when it's just not looking the way you want it to look. And then you end up spending so much time trying to fix it. This is bottlenecking your business. Inbox management. This is a big one. If you get floods of emails every day, you don't have to be the one looking at your email. You could hire a VA to go into your business account and help you segment what's important, what can be looked at later, adding some reminders to stuff. Like having a little bit of an assistant like that can be really helpful because then you're not going into your day feeling like incredibly overwhelmed from the get-go. As soon as you click, enter, you're like gmail.com, boom. It terrifies you. So doing something like inbox management, admin tasks, even repurposing your content. Have a VA go into your stuff and be like, okay, go and see what performed the best, right? Let's look at the analytics. Let's see what performed the best over the last 6 months. We're going to repurpose all that content. Or maybe it's just weekly you repurpose stuff. For example, I record this podcast episode. It gets repurposed into story slides, reels, emails, posts. I use this one piece of content for all of my content in the week. That's repurposing content. I don't have to be the one to do it, right? I'm sitting here having the conversation with you. I need to be here for this part. But after I click end and this recording is done, I can easily send this file to somebody else and I can have a checklist of all the places that I want it to be, all the ways that I want it repurposed, and boom, there it is. So these are things that are on my own delegate list that I'll be getting to. The key is to be aware enough to notice, right? So in that delegate column, what you're going to want to ask is like, where am I sort of lowering the ceiling of my business by insisting on doing everything myself? It's kind of a tough question. Honestly, it's a little hard for me too, because I am a solopreneur, right? Like I don't have outsourced things at the moment. And well, not entirely. I have a couple outsourced things, but I could have more. And as my business grows, I should have more. I will have more. And doing this kind of work, saying, okay, what do I need to keep? What can I automate? What do I need to delegate? Really important information to know as a business owner. So here's kind of the rule of thumb that I like to go from. If it drains you, delays you, or distracts you, it's not a you job anymore. When you do this kind of audit, honestly, you're going to see that the bottleneck in your business isn't just you alone, right? It's technically the amount of hats that you're still trying to wear, right? It's all of these tasks. It's all these things you're putting on yourself. Do they really have to be a you job anymore? Because at some point, like, we're never meant to run our businesses alone forever. As a business grows, you are meant to take people into the fold, right? That's how you grow the culture of it. That's how you spread the message. So as the business owner, you're meant to lead your brand, right? And direct its movement, its trajectory. But the second that you stop being the bottleneck and taking a little bit of ownership for like, okay, it is time to automate some things. It is time to delegate some things. Maybe it's time to just completely erase some things. When you do that, so much opens up. Your creativity starts flowing. You have more clarity. You have more capacity to actually fulfill the things that are on that keep column to like 100%. So do this little audit for yourself, right? Release the tasks that no longer need to belong to you. Create some room for the version of you that's building your next chapter, not the version of you who's maintaining your business you started 2 years ago. If this episode hit home for you, feel free to share with a friend. Something like this, these are hard conversations, but Absolutely necessary. From business owner to business owner, I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you next week on a brand new episode. Bye, guys.